Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode. I'm switching up. It's no longer it is what it is. It's the Cody Kelly Show. It's Mr. CVMK himself. Same great energy, same great personality. It's just going to be all me and what we really like to discuss. What I really like to discuss. Speaking in the third person, it was we. But before I do, you know what you got to do. Look, subscribe, YouTube, CVMK. Instagram, CVMK33. It is what it is, _show, CVMK _global. And we're the best supplements are. Got it with me. Super RP workout at www.cvmkglobal.store. A couple things has been on my mind. It really has been kind of triggering my sensory perception. And that is the conglomeration of sports as a business. Like I've always known it's a business, right? But I felt like the product was the end result of the business happenings, that the product would stand. The product was the most essential aspect of, whatever was being viewed. That was the NBA, the NFL, the MLB, golf. The product was the focus. Now I'm starting to understand that the product can be commoditized and that it's really about partnerships, market reach, and affiliation. So today's episode, we're going to talk about welcome to the new NBA and the new golf. #money driven. I really want to focus on that because it is a new NBA. The days of Titans battling it out, Barkley versus Jordan, Jordan versus Isaiah, Bird versus Magic, Phil Mickelson versus Tiger, McIlroy, the legendary golfers. Those days are kind of being sequestered, and it is really about now what sells, what penetrates the market and the consumer interest. How can we expand market share, right? And that ultimately is going to affect the quality of the product, not from a point that somehow the talent becomes less, but that the talent that is not producing effective results is what's going to be kind of, adjusted, I think is the best way and the best word to say adjustment, period. But before we go any further, just a quick word from our sponsors.
There's a hero in all of us waiting to be unleashed. All it takes is just that one last push. Activate the hero within with CVMK Global Supplements. All natural, steroid-free, designed to enhance performance, build muscle, and increase energy. You are unstoppable. You can do this. Become your own hero at www.cvmkglobal.store.
All right, welcome back, www.cvmkglobal.store. Look, I put together a nice little presentation for you. I really want to discuss what I mean and really get into depth about it. So I want to talk about the new NBA. The new NBA. This isn't yesteryear's NBA. It's not the golden era in the 80s or the Jordan era in the 90s or the early 2000s, the Kobe, Shaq, Tim Duncan. This is the new NBA. It is a global business. What I mean by that, I've been looking at revenue models. Anytime you want to understand the culture of something, you have to understand what actually drives, creates, and makes up its revenue base, right? Nothing can exist without a profit. So, Christine Go earlier this year published the NBA, revenue kind of model. She goes on to write that total league revenue of the National Basketball Association has followed an increased trend from 2001 to the 2022 season. where all 30 NBA teams combined have generated revenues just over 10 billion US dollars. That the teams of these NBA generated revenues around 10 billion US dollars mark a significant increase in figure from 6.41 billion dollars the year prior. The average revenue per franchise throughout the whole NBA was about 334 million USD. Golden State being the number one franchise, generating about $765 million per year. LA and the New York Knicks behind them, the Lakers and the Knicks at $500 million per year. And I'm thinking of really 465, 452 compared to what they were generating in the 70s. What's amazing about this is the teams only generate an average of $334 million. Your higher performing teams, closer to $1 billion, closer to $800 million. Mid success franchise would be about $500 million, but there's no real like $1 billion a year generator. Where the revenue is being obtained from, and they're able to pay these, salaries for the coaches and for the players, is through its partnerships. So I broke it down. Media contracts, team generated revenue, NBA partnerships, and the mitigating risk factor. On the media contracts between TV, social media, news, media, this kind of nuance, even podcasts, it is creating a value of $2.4 billion annually that can be shared between 30 NBA teams. So you have $2.4 billion that gets sliced up 30 ways, right? If you go with what they're generating, $334 million annually. And then the partnerships, the brands like the Nikes and the other brands that sponsor and the commercials, that's another $1.4 billion. So you figure they have about $4 billion worth of just TV media, social media, and brand sponsorships. So $4 billion plus an average of almost $400 million per team. $10 billion. So 14 basically billion, or a little more than $10 billion in an annual average accumulation. This is where I would say the where it hits the fan, right? Where the proof is in the pudding. Mitigating risk is now essential for any business, any affiliation, any sports league. This is where it becomes interesting. When individuals are obtained, where they're signed, drafted, they're doing a lot more what I call psychoanalysis or analysis into who the individual is, who this individual wants to be. Because depending on the activities, depending on how they go about making their persona, their off the field, off the court antics could create a negative space where it could affect dollar value. This could be as simple as load management, not healthy, not wanting to play in certain conditions, the wrong tweet. And what is interesting is that teams are becoming more risk adverse. In the 80s, there was a saying by Al Davis, just win, baby, right? Like he basically, whatever his players did didn't matter as long as they were winning Super Bowls and winning playoff games. Teams are no longer willing to. And I understand why. I mean, there's a lot of, obviously you don't want anybody that is creating any type of negative energy and any type of negative consequence that could affect the profitability and the forwardness of your brand. But this is where it becomes really, really interesting. If I have two players and they're both evenly skilled, evenly matched, they're the same position, and I have to choose, I'm no longer choosing between what's proven. I'm choosing between what the potential of a fallout is. So, I said this and this is no shade. And this is why, even at an earlier age, even at AAU, what we have to teach is the ethics and the professionalism, because it's a business. You can no longer mess up. All this, caught in the club, you have this going on, you have that going on. The problem is if you do anything that will tarnish the brand, tarnish the ecosystem, mess up the revenue models, you will be the first to go. The leash has gotten shorter. And you might say, well, that makes sense. I mean, why would you want a troublemaker? I understand that. And it's not about being a troublemaker. It's just about when you get somebody 18, 19, 20, 21, can you really expect that individual to make the best sound decisions? Hopefully, but everybody's been young, and youth has a certain flair towards it, a certain flair in it. And when there is all of this possible combustion and you mix it with fame and influence and a lot of money, something detrimental is bound to happen. But now, since mitigating risk is a factor, I could honestly see a scenario where the NBA becomes a publicly traded institution just to increase revenue models, right? I could see it where you could have IPO, the NBA or teams and players now, and now you can invest in certain, because you think about cryptocurrency, I mean, technically it's not based on any real asset. That's why it's called an NFT, and that's why they are NFT, non-fungible tokens. You can create value off of something that is not established in hard currency. And if cryptocurrency can do it, why couldn't you do it for athletics, particularly now since you're allowing sports betting, right? Sports betting is legal and you're promoting sports betting, particularly with, all, I would say, podcasts geared toward the NBA and sports as a whole. Sports betting is no longer seen as taboo. It's not even an issue of tampering. So if you could do this, why can't you also influence Wall Street and have that become a part of the revenue model? And then you could really see revenue explode through the roof. So mitigating risk is the factor that's going to change the way how scouts are scouting these young athletes. They're not looking for just the high flyer, the athlete that can run the fastest, that can hit the ball the longest. They're looking at, family structure and intangibles, environments, associations, social interactions, because they need to see, are you going to say or do anything that could potentially harm the revenue stream? Mitigating risk now is just as important in the revenue model as media contracts, team-generated revenue, NBA partnership. Interesting stat, 9-year deal earns the NBA approximately $2.6 billion per year, even with the total 400-odd active players making close to about $6.7 million annually. NBA national TV contracts generate enough revenue to cover salaries and then some. TV alone pays for the team. Everything that the team makes is pure profit that goes to the executive leadership. Brand affiliates create the ecosystems and the things that they need to safeguard the brand, and mitigating risk will be, to me, the foundation in which you can now launch this new revenue business model through IPO. PGA Tour and Live Golf have come to a settlement. They are no longer warring this Saudi public fund trust, which is, I want to say, what was it, $2 billion? I think they've spent close to $1 billion in creating this partnership and acquisition and merger so that, the top talent in golf can be a part of the LIV golf experience. The great thing about this is business will always win. Right. I mean, when money is being thrown around, when you can increase your market share, business owners, business individuals are going to do what allows or what the market dictates. This was a no-brainer. People could talk about, well, the efficacy or ethics. Look, when it comes to business, or as the saying says, you don't want to know how the sausage is made, right? Like, whether you agree with it, whether you don't agree with it, whether you're politically adverse to it, from a business standpoint, and I've said this before, since America no longer leads in the economic awareness of sports entertainment, having these partnerships, having these affiliates, these up and coming leagues that are really well funded, partnering with now the TV and the social media, there's just a nuance and a new stream of wealth that can be allocated towards certain events, right? This is on a global scale. We're no longer, it's just not an American, thing. I don't even think the concept of American athletics even dominates the conversation when it comes to the business of sports. Sports is a global phenomenon, right? So really understanding that the economics are going to be driven by the power players, those that have the money and want to see an increased brand exposure. And it was a win-win for both of them. I know these two were adversarial. Tiger Woods spoke out about it, but he has a vested interest in the Golf Channel. I think he's like an investor or something like that. So he was against it initially, but when LIV starts issuing those checks and the revenue that could potentially be lost, and all of a sudden, your match was a $20 million purse, it becomes a $50 million, or $50 million becomes $100 million, $100 million becomes $200 million. All of a sudden now, the conversation will change. So congrats to the PGA Tour and LIV. This is a sign of things to come. I expect the LIV golf to be actually a foreshadow of what we're going to see in the NBA. I can see it particularly as the NBA expands into European markets, into Eastern Asian markets, into African markets, and you start having teams now globally positioned and becomes more like soccer on an international scale. I could see this definitely being part of the process that brings us together. All right, I got a few thoughts I want to cover, and really want to discuss. Really, I think what's going to drive this, but just a quick word from one of our sponsors. Hey, what's up? It's CVMK 33. Look, I want you to subscribe, hit the notification bell, subscribe here, everywhere, so you can get the latest and greatest of this podcast content. Stay tuned. All right, y'all. Look, subscribe, CVMK. That's all you got to go to is on YouTube. Hit share the like button. It's simple. Catch all the amazing content. Look, when it comes to the business of sports, and that's why I said welcome to the new NBA and golf, and I keep bringing this up, you have to go beyond the barbershop talk. The barbershop talk is no longer valuable. I feel like it's a conversation of testosterone. It's like he didn't do this. His vertical is this. He didn't. The reality is, who's winning, who's making the dollar not churn, hopefully, who's increasing the value of the business. The value of the business is the model for the sports and for business as a whole. The entertainment that it provides you as a fan is a byproduct, no longer the product. The revenue that it generates is the product. The byproduct is now the entertainment aspect of it. It is now the new wave of the sports entertainment. Sports entertainment definitely is here to stay. And I think that's why you're seeing such an increase in what I would call high lows. And what I mean by high lows, you have certain players who can, are celebrated and extended, and they seem to never be without a team. And then there's just players that just disappear. Like they just disappear. It's like, where's what's the name? Why isn't what's the name in the league? Why is this person in Taiwan? And you're getting what I call a sifting or a filtering out process, because it's all about the money. Can this person really play the style of play that's going to generate the most interest and the most revenue? But I'll be back with my final word after this.
I literally just tried the best pre-workout on the planet. With Superpower pre-workout, you have increased focus and a power boost every single time you work out. It's not only packed with 225 milligrams of caffeine, but it also has citrulline and creatine. It's insane how much energy and focus I had during my workouts. If you're ready to take your workouts to the next level, then ditch your current pre-workout and get the Superpower pre-workout to be your own hero.
All right, y'all. Get it today. www.cvmkglobal.store. You will not be disappointed. So we talk about the business model, and I know it's not a sexy term. Like, oh, the business model. I just want to see dunks. I want to watch the NBA Finals. The NBA Finals is great. It is a prelude of what's to come. You're going to see more what I would call overnight names. Not that they're overnight, but they're fueling interest, right? You're the I think the days of the superstar phenomenon that is wielding all of this power is broken. They've taken, I don't want to say they, but that type of influence can no longer be trusted. It is a more democratized ecosystem in which, I won't say democratized, more of a capitalistic ecosystem, which really the influence of what is attractive to this point is steering the conversation. You're going to see more, not underdogs, but I would say well balanced. And maybe this is great for competition teams. And I think honestly, a team like the Nuggets and a team like the Heat is what the NBA prefers, because it really takes away from the superstars. Because even though Nikola is a star and Jamal's a star and Jimmy's a star, you wouldn't call him a superstar. You wouldn't say like, man, number one selling shoe, number one selling jersey. But what you're seeing is they have a presence that is marketable, particularly in international sections, that can attract a new wave of audience, because you're always going to have your hardcore fans over here. You're going to have those that are loyal to the brand, but now you can attract a new kind of demographic that might not be as traditionally attracted to this style of player, to this sport. But now, because there's resonating and there's representation, now it draws in who you want to see. And with that, increases awareness, increases brand awareness, increases money, and it's better for the game. It might not be as entertaining, but it is definitely, from a financial standpoint, better for the game. Be on the lookout, though. I'm telling you, for what I'm saying, I can see there's going to be definitely an added value add. And I really think the business of sports is got to be careful, and it's got to be balanced, that we don't see like tampering and anything of this nature, because the business of sports is the flavor of sports, and the byproduct is the entertainment and the satisfaction that it provides to the consumer. Look, awesome episode, Cody Kelly Show, CVMK podcast. It will always be, it is what it is. I want you to subscribe. YouTube, CVMK. Instagram, CVMK33. Instagram, CVMK_global. It is what it is _show. Do it today. We're all great podcasts is seen, heard, and felt. And until next time, guys, thanks.